Hello once again, readers of good literature. I'm Nick Pell once again, and this is coming from my room. Now today the book that we are going to read is Bram Stoker's Dracula. I hope you can see this. This is the Barnes & Noble edition. That's the one I got. I got it for my birthday last May. It's got this cool rigid side for the pages, which I really like. Okay, character-wise. First character that introduces the story is a guy named Jonathan Harker. Now, Mr. Harker, he goes to Count Dracula's castle in order to discuss real estate options with him for when he moves to a city in Europe. And that introduces the second character in the story, its title character, Count Dracula himself, the vampire. Dracula, his main presence is basically in the beginning of the story and at the end of the story, and then he basically does things in the background of the story for the rest of the novel, but his physical appearance is not seen except for the beginning and the end. And then you got the arch nemesis of Count Dracula, who basically every fan of any good vampire story, besides Twilight, which is crap, I'm gonna get so many hate comments for that. But you got Van Helsing, who is the vampire hunter, and he's also a Dutch doctor. Van Helsing is brought into the story when Lucy Westenra gets sick and comes down with an illness, which I will not discuss right here. That is how he is basically introduced into the story and how he comes to interact with the main characters. And then you also have Mina Murray / Mina Harker, who is Jonathan Harker's fiance and then becomes his wife, or midway into the novel, I think. Next up is Dr. Seward. Dr. Seward is actually a very interesting character. He is a doctor, as said in his name. If I understood it correctly, he was in love with Lucy, but she rejected him for this guy named Arthur, who I'll get to in a minute. Dr. Seward has a test subject, whose name I do not remember, because he's only in the story every so often. He has a very interesting role, though. This test subject is basically a subject of Dracula. He obeys him and he is very loyal to him. But the prisoner or the subject is kept in a room sealed off with only one window, which is how Dracula communicates with him in bat form. And then two other kind of minor characters who don't really have a huge impact are Mr. Quincy Morris, who is basically just there for the ride, and I believe he is also in love with Lucy. Yeah, and then you have Arthur, who is the one who Lucy chose to get married to. And his financial wealth that he accumulates throughout the novel comes into play towards the end of the book. So that's about it for characters, and now on to the plot. Basically the plot starts out with Jonathan Harker going to Transylvania to discuss real estate options with Count Dracula. Once he enters Dracula's castle, he basically becomes a prisoner of the castle. Although Dracula does not outright say that he's a prisoner, he does not allow Harker to leave. Throughout time, I think the whole first part of the book takes place in about a month or two. That's basically when Jonathan realizes through journal entries that he is being kept prisoner and he can't leave because Dracula is eventually going to turn him into a vampire. Yeah, first thing I should mention is that the book is made up of journal entries and letters written to different main characters, and then journal entries narrated first person by their respective characters, which is a very interesting way of narrating a story. Another author that kind of does this similarly, where it's split into different parts based on different people, is Faulkner in As I Lay Dying, which I will review later this summer. I believe that George Martin does it in his Song of Fire and Ice series too. I haven't read the books yet. I plan on doing it later this summer, so you'll have a review for that probably around September, for the first one, Game of Thrones. Okay. After Jonathan's little encounter with Dracula, the story shifts to his fiancée, Mina Murray, and her letters back and forth to Lucy. Lucy gets sick. Thus, all the main characters kind of join together in hopes of saving her life. And then the story just kind of goes on from there. And that's about the basicness of the story. With all these reviews, I'm not going to go throughout the whole plot, A, because it would spoil things, and if there's someone just looking for a review to know if they want to read this or not, I'm not going to spoil something because that would just be pointless. Yeah, so that's basically how the book starts out. You can read it for yourself to find out what happens next. It's actually a very compelling story. I must say, I'll get to the little parts that I didn't like at the enjoyment bit of this review. But on to themes. First theme is light versus dark. Basically, this is kind of self-explanatory. Dracula and his minions are kind of resembling of the dark, and Jonathan Harker, Van Helsing, Mina, all of them, they're resembling the light. It's basically a good versus evil type of story. Because unlike many of the books that I have read, like Frankenstein and Jekyll and Hyde, and all those books that have kind of been stereotyped and brought into modern society in a manipulated version of themselves from the original text, Dracula isn't really. Dracula is just a set bad guy, as far as you can tell. Good versus evil, kind of the same type of thing. Enjoyment for the most part, and I did enjoy this book. Yeah, I finished the book in less than a month. I did not give you a freaking description. The description's on here. Just read the freaking book. No one will read it. Book is relatively 400 pages. It's very good. I enjoyed it. The character, journal entries and whatnot, it's done very well by Stoker. So, I have a couple gripes with it though. Well, it seemed like the book was split in kind of just 4 parts. It's not physically split, like it doesn't have a part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, but it just kind of seemed like it based on the events that happened. It kind of seemed like the book could have ended at any of those points because there wasn't really a continuation. Because kind of just like after Jonathan's first encounter with Dracula in the castle and all those finished, it just kind of goes right into Mina, Harker, and Lucy with like no introduction or anything. It just kind of starts that. And it's like, what happened to Jonathan? I don't know. He's gone for the next 100 pages. So, and I thought this story, based on the description, was going to be mainly about Jonathan and Dracula and Van Helsing and whatnot. But it wasn't. And I think that's partly due to media of the modern day world. That was just kind of a letdown for me. It was very suspenseful, which I liked. That was kind of nice. Oh, one last thing about all my gripes with it. I didn't really like that there were no Dracula journal entries. I was really hoping, when I read this, this is kind of relating to the Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde type of dealio, where Frankenstein's not really the monster, his creator, Victor Frankenstein, is blah blah blah. You never got to see a possible good side to him, but I guess for the time, authors wanted their monsters to be monsters, and not be compassionate towards. Kind of like with the Twilight crap that's on right now. Yeah, that was my gripe with it. There was no Dracula journal entries, so therefore you could not relate to him. I wanted to see how the King of Vampires became the King of Vampires, and I did not get to see that, which I was kind of disappointed about. I want to see some sort of love, passion type of dealio between Dracula, got hurt, somehow became a vampire, blah, blah, blah. The ending was pretty suspenseful, but once again, not very action-packed. But yeah, I do recommend this book. It's very good. For anyone who likes real vampires, horror, or mystery. There's a lot of mystery in this book because during the second and third parts, it is a very big mystery story. There's not like a detective looking for clues and stuff, but it's kind of just Van Helsing putting the pieces together of what's going on here, and that kind of is able to continue the story. So, that's my review. This was a very speedy review. It might have been longer than my Othello one though, somehow, even though I rushed this one big time, because I have to leave in -2 minutes. I gotta go work. Read it, love it. Like, favorite, subscribe, comment, all that gibberish and whatnot. Until next time, my name is Nick Pell, and as always, keep on reading.